Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a couple of hours now since the Bongi and Wanambi Tom Curry situation has been resolved by South African by World Rugby. I thought I'd give a couple of thoughts about it. On the whole, it's a totally unsatisfactory end of for matters because it leaves everybody hanging. Um, yeah, it's just a shit show, to be very honest. So let's begin with what World Rugby had to say. I think we all know the background to the story. If you haven't, you've been living under a bit of a rock. Quite simply, Tom Curry went to the referee on Saturday and asked if what does he do if the opposition hooker, which is Mbonambi, calls him a white C word. And so there's been a lot of discussion on social media, a lot of discussion everywhere about what exactly happened and whether it was a misunderstanding because the Afrikaans word for side is a word called kant. So you say omkant is offside. Was it a misunderstanding? Was it actual slur? Or was it just, I suppose the other possibility just made up a player trying to get into the referee's mind about everything? Um, yeah, obviously there's no place for racism in rugby, and even though there might still be a debate about is this really seen as a racist thing, yeah, obviously it's been played to the hilt by for especially the English media, and yeah, they sort of almost haven't stopped it the entire time. Yeah, I've made another video about this, which you can go watch. My thoughts on that. We all media people, we all have to follow a story, but there's times where you also, yeah, it feels a bit more like a witch hunt than anything else. Saying that, that's what happened. World Rugby launched an investigation, said take it very seriously. In a week of a World Cup final, the last thing you need is a sideshow, and we had a sideshow for 3 days. World Rugby investigated for 3 days and could find nothing. Insufficient evidence is their words they used. Unfortunately, with that, it leaves everybody hanging. It leaves everybody in a situation where you don't actually know what insufficient evidence means. Does it mean they thought there was something and they just couldn't prove it? Or did they think that they just couldn't find anything? That's the question we don't have answered at the moment, and nobody. It does Tom Curry's reputation no good. It does Bongi and Banambi's reputation no good, and it leaves everybody hanging else. And obviously, depending on what side you're on the matter you're on, you make your decision from there about where you stand on the matter, which is also wrong. Yeah, it's just, I wish in the world we lived in a world where we could all just wait for the outcome and just go on with our lives. But unfortunately, everybody sort of has their own view on it, and social media tends to push you to have that view and to share that view with the world. And there's been some real vile stuff online as well. Abuse hurled at both Tom Curry and Bongi. And all I'm going to say to that is if you're one of those people, please don't follow my channel. Please don't call yourself a rugby fan. You don't need to abuse players if you don't like the situation. There are other ways of venting your anger, and I think you should probably see somebody and to talk about your anger. Um, okay, but let's have a look quickly at World Rugby statement, and we can go from there. If you read World Rugby statement, it says it's undertaken a review of allegations. You can see, etc., about all the information. It's any allegations taken extremely seriously by World Rugby, and well as they should, warranting a thorough investigation, having considered all the valuable evidence, including match footage, audio, and evidence from both teams. The governing body has determined that there is insufficient evidence at this time to proceed with charges. Therefore, the matter is deemed closed unless additional evidence comes to light. Um, yeah. Well, it's all good and well to say that. The statement goes on. It says it's important to note, and this is where I've got a bit of a problem, is that World Rugby accepts that Tom Curry made allegations in good faith, and that there's no suggestion the allegation was deliberately false or malicious. So, by saying that, you're actually saying that there is something to this. And I know the South African team will take a lot of offence to this as well, because you're almost saying that we accept Tom Curry didn't lie, but if he didn't lie, we just couldn't find evidence. That's what you're almost saying in this, and that, when you talk about a player's reputation, you're talking about a situation where he's being branded a racist now, and he has no way of defending himself. He has, no way of, sort of clearing his name, and Yeah, I don't know. I just, if I was Bongi, I would seriously. I know he's got a World Cup to worry about, but I would seriously consider taking legal advice as well. I'm no lawyer, but I'm sure there's a couple of people. Once we get to the England statement, there's a couple of people who could probably make a good argument for defamation of character here. Um, World Rugby is also concerned by the social media abuse that both players have subjected to. There's no place, etc., for discrimination, abuse, or hate speech, and we all agree with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, that statement. I think we all should all just take a step back, take a deep breath, and calm down. The England statement was rather interesting as well. So you can see here, the RFU fully support Tom Curry in raising the racially abusive behaviour he experienced while playing for England against South Africa. Now, first of all, they're saying that this is a fact. Yeah, they're obviously backing their player. I'd be very worried if they didn't back their player, but they backed them to the hilt here. So they're accusing Bongi of being a racist, yeah. And that's why I say, if World Rugby's found nothing, there's no evidence, I would seriously consider legal action, because they literally coming out with a statement after World Rugby's found nothing. Instead of saying they're disappointed in the outcome and that's that, they've gone and said, no, he's used racially abusive behaviour. That may be their view. There's no evidence for that, and now the onus becomes on them to provide that evidence if you ever go to a court case, and to say that to prove that they didn't defame him, etc. They said next paragraph says he reported to the referee. Um, then they say the World Rugby investigation were informed by Tom Curry that he'd also been the victim of the same abuse from the same player in the Autumn Test 2022. World Rugby have today announced the decision not to bring charges in respect of either incident. Now, the only thing I can think that the reason why World Rugby haven't brought any charges is one, there's either no evidence, well, we know there's no evidence, they don't have any evidence for it, or two, they don't think it's a winnable case. And I could, with the way World Rugby was in the Rossi thing, the way they've been in other incidents, even the Owen Farrell red card, really, you can make a good case that they would have brought charges if there was any shred of evidence as well. So the RFU said they're deeply disappointed by the decision taken by World Rugby. The decision is not to put the evidence before an independent disciplinary panel has denied the disciplinary process the opportunity to hear him and independently assess the account of these series of events, together with other valuable evidence. In their continued full support of Tom, the RFU, together with the English squad, condemned the disgusting abuse. I agree with them there. Abuse of any kind is not acceptable and goes against the core values of rugby. So the problem I have here is that they've gone now and they've sort of doubled down. They've backed themselves 100% to the hilt. They've basically called Bongi a racist, and they say there's no way Tom Curry's lying. He's experienced it more than once. And my first question is, well, if he experienced it before a year ago, why has nobody actually reported it back then? Why only report it now? So that's the first thing. Second of all, by doubling down and saying that he's a racist, they've opened themselves really up, and I'm sure there's 100 barristers out there who would love to take this case. And to be honest, I can't understand why the RFU would do that. Now, when I talk about rugby values and rugby things like that, you accept the disciplinary process. You don't just decide, well, no, I don't like the outcome, so now I'm going to double down and carry on. You call the player racist. You basically, and I can't get. It's such a difficult claim. Anybody who's been in that situation, in South Africa, we find it happens quite a lot. People use the race card. We've got obviously a very deep history of these things, a very shameful past that we're all aware of, but that we're in a different country now, but that the race card still gets used quite often. Um, the miner's back again, and yeah, just it's a terrible thing to have to defend yourself against, because how do you defend yourself against that? How do you actually prove you're not racist? And this is what I never understand with people is yeah, it's almost impossible to prove. Now, if Tom Curry had another witness, if he had any others other than say, just his word against Bongi's, then fair enough. Then they've got a case. But to double down when you've only got the word of your player, and you could actually be hauled into court, is rather dumb for me, and rather arrogant of the RFU as well. I must admit, whatever your views is on the incident, anybody knows if you're going to go into a court case, you better have your facts. And I think the RFU might be in a bit of trouble. As I say, I'm no legal expert, but I think the RFU might have some trouble if they do open this can of worms, and like they have, and Bongi decides to take them up on it. Um, I'm sure you'll have the entire South Africa behind him. The Springboks are a racially diverse squad. They're a squad who believes in each other. They're a squad who represents a rainbow nation. They're a squad that plays for the people. I mean, Kwacha had a brilliant answer yesterday when he was asked about, yeah, do they feel they've won the respect of the rugby world by winning a World Cup and maybe winning a second one? And his answer was quite clear. He said, well, we don't play for the respect of people, we play for our country. And that's the thing. They play for South Africans. They play to make South Africans proud. They don't play for anything else, and they've been under fire from day one in this World Cup. So you've gone very far to find the South African, having any sort of sympathy for Tom Curry, and that, you might think that doesn't mean anything, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of South Africans, a lot of rugby people I've spoken to in the last couple of days have all said, yeah, these things happen on the field. A lot of them questioned whether it was really racial abuse, and another bunch of them said, well, better thing would have been to just sort it out behind closed doors. But now it's been put into overdrive. There's a theory that was leaked deliberately by England's management, and they wanted it to come up, and of course it was run with by the English media, which is, yeah, I suppose, to make up for the disappointment that they lost. And as my colleague and friend Dan Retief pointed out today on Twitter, perhaps they should be asking why Owen Farrell's backchatting the referee cost them 3 points, and that ended up being the difference between them and South Africa in the semi-final. So you're not going to find very lot of sympathy here for that. But if I was Bongi and Benambi, I would seriously take some legal advice. Then, just where does this leave us all right now? Well, yeah, I think the last thing to just go is to the South African statement. They sent it out a little while back. Just going to get it up here quickly. SA Rugby has noted World Rugby's announcement, blah blah blah, and welcomes the decision. As they say, any form of racism is abhorrent to SA Rugby and the Springbok team, whose purpose is to do everything in its power to assist in uniting our diverse and multicultural nation. Bongi is an experienced, respected and decorated test player, and needless to say, denied the allegations from the outset. SA Rugby has absolute faith in the honesty and integrity of Bongi. The team's focus remains, as it should, as it has throughout this week, on Saturday's match against New Zealand. SA Rugby will make no further comment on this matter. So the problem now is, this is almost the conclusion to this video, is this leaves us in a very, very bad place. It leaves us with one player who made the allegation, and his rugby union still doubling down that there was an allegation, being upset, having no joy, no outcome, being seen by at least a lot of South Africans and a number of other rugby players as somebody who's, sort of overstepped the mark and could have sorted something out differently. There is a feeling that it was done deliberately amongst a lot of people that I know as well. And his reputation has been tarnished. Even if you're English, you can't say his reputation has been enhanced by this whole thing. And the same with Bongi. He's been accused of being racist. He's denied it. He can't defend himself in any way. Yeah, he's not able to clear his name, and no matter what, there's always going to be a certain set of fans who believe that he said it or not. Whether he said it or not, I don't know. I mean, it is in the day of, if you don't trust the process, and we're always getting told to trust the World Rugby process. If you don't trust that there was a process and that they couldn't find anything and the matter is closed, and you want to still harp on about it, well, good for you. If you've decided in your mind that you've made up your mind which way it's gone, then you're cleverer than me. So all I know is this is a shit show. There's no winner. And in fact, everybody and rugby is the loser in this whole mess. And while we should have been talking about the World Cup final, we've been talking about this rubbish. And I don't know, it's frustrated me big time, because I'd rather be talking about what a wonderful World Cup final we're going to have against New Zealand this weekend. So anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think Bongi should consult a bit of legal advice? I certainly would if I was him. can maybe make a few pounds. Anyway, that's I suppose then we open that can of worms and this mess again. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do chat soon. And so far, nobody's guessed where I am. So yeah, we'll keep it a mystery for another day or so. Cheers.